acted in my first play when I was 3 years old. And that's because my dad, who was a minister in a small church about 30 miles east of Seattle, noticed in his congregation that the sons and their fathers who came together every year to put on a tableau of the Last Supper really seemed to create a special kind of bond while they did this.
Well, the first concept of doing a passion play, when we arrived at Falls City, they told us that they had a tradition of doing an Easter play. Mm-hmm. Well, I thought that's a good idea.
And so he got the idea after his first year of being in this church that he'd find a couple people who liked to write, and they would write a full-length passion play.
And so then the next year, I began asking the question, would we really find some people who would learn some lines and do a play?
And they'd ask anybody in town who wanted to get together and put on a play to come on down. And before he knew it, there were over 100 people in this little town of only 2,000 that started showing up and doing all the work that it took to produce this play for over 30 years.
I see my daughter Mary as a child loving to create plays and her own imagination. And many times these little plays were takeoffs from the Passion Play. They took a lot of creative license with Jesus' life.
And the grown-ups were saying, no, you kids, you stand back. This is too important for you. Get out of the way. And Jesus stopped and he said, you let those children come here now, for unto them is the kingdom of heaven. And then the real treat was that we would alternate amongst us as to who got to take their turn to sit on Jesus' lap while he told the rest of his story. That was special.
Their creative imaginations were certainly sparked by this.
If kids get heaven, kids are expert at heaven, what does that mean? What do kids do? What are kids really good at? Kids are good at playing. Kids can imagine things. Kids can create. Is that what kids in heaven have in common? Whoa.
We had this invitation to take the play to Wenatchee. And then the night before we were to leave, the people at Wenatchee called to say they wanted to cancel it because they hadn't have enough advanced ticket sales. So I went to the cast, and they says they didn't care. They were going anyway. So I called them back and says, we're coming. So when we got to Wenatchee and set up in the Pioneer Gymnasium, and the doors opened up and the whole gymnasium filled with audience 2 nights in a row. So that was rather a happy experience.
It had this authenticity about it that attracted people. They're just, it was not phoniness. It was very an authentic expression by these people. And the audience, I think, could see that.
Year after year, they kept coming, building the scenery, building the costumes, figuring out how to hang lights, people taking on roles according to whatever role seemed to suit them. What exactly kept this diverse group of people coming back year after year?
Just the amount of time and energy put into this was really quite phenomenal.
A good number of them didn't come to church. They just came, did this play. So what was it about doing this play? What was the allurement? And I've wondered, was it in doing this? Was it during doing this kind of creativity? Was this their way of experiencing the divine? Is this how they accessed it for themselves? You see, because the divine is in our unconscious, and when it becomes conscious, that's where it is as part of our creativity. That's where the magic is. That's how we know that the divine is functioning through us. And those are my roots.